Sure. Do you need me to turn on?
No, it's on. Go ahead and seal it.
Hello. Hi, Jesse. We're bargaining today. At
Apologies to our towners. We had some technical difficulties. So Phyllis has an agenda produced up there. To the best of our ability, we'll follow it. So welcome. And I don't know that we have anybody new on our team that wasn't here. Was Troy here last week? Dr. Davis is the Director of Federal Programs. So that's the only person that you may not know.
Okay.
So just from the prior discussion, there was a request, and we'll work on that with the benefits presentation. So with Gretchen and Jay Wynn will be first up.
Okay, so we are going.
Gretchen, can you guys use the mic or the
Either the handheld or
the handheld or that, please?
the.
Por favor. We're gonna put it on the mic. Yes, yes. Be on the top. No?
You're right. I'm gonna be acting like I know what I'm doing.
Let's play around with it till it
It'll
works,
work.
right?
We'll get it. Experience is the best teacher. Sure, Gretchen, you can.
Yes.
Okay, Miss Phillips. Okay, I'm gonna go to the stage.
You need to hand out anything, or
Do it.
you need me to hand out anything?
No.
No handouts?
Yeah,
Not yet?
you'll
Okay.
get handouts.
Okay.
Okay. She's really just going tonight. Well,
And this would have been like this way last time, would it be?
Is we had our first meeting today with health insurance committee, and this is what we walk through in our health insurance committee meetings. We walk through the financials of the medical plan, the dental plan, and the vision plan, and so it's easier for me to point and point when I'm up here. So just to walk you through what is our, where do we stand for the medical plan? So how we read this, if this is our income and expense report as of June 30th, 2023. For the medical plan, this is everything that happened in the month of June. This is cumulative July through June. This is our prior year information and then the difference column. So we have it broken out into income and expenses. So for the medical plan, we had employee contributions for the year of $11,857,785. The board contribution was $41,370,000. I'm just going to round. So the total contribution for between employee and board came in at $53,228,000. There's a couple of miscellaneous type items under COBRA, FMLA, legal gases, and FSC that came in at $145,000 to the fund. We had retiree premiums of $1,722,000. We had provider refunds, which is also rebates, that came in at $6.8 million. We had interest and miscellaneous income of $1.6 million. Spousal surcharge came in at $275,000. Retiree life, $410,000. The wellness program was $50,000 for total income for the medical plan of $64,315,317. On the expense side, our expenses first are the Blue Cross Blue Shield, our hospital indemnity claims and miscellaneous of little over $34 million, $34,047,000. The prescriptions were at $17.2 million. The wellness centers came in at the expense of $2,782,000. The administrative fees that cover medical, HIP, FSA, Wakely, GASB, and the ACA came in at 4.9, just shy of $5 million for the year. We had disability premiums of $223,000, reinsurance premiums of $1,370,000, We've got the Blue Cross Blue Shield Florida Group Medicare premium of $114,975. The retiree life premium, $443,000. Salaries, the employees working on this program, $343,201. Benefits, $124,000. Travel, $22,295. Materials and supplies, $8,126. And then we have a transfer general fund. So back in 2014, 2013, 14, and 15, the general fund, the operating fund of the school district had to lend the medical fund dollars to maintain their, to be solvent. And it transferred a total of $4,933,818, and we transferred it back at the close of June 30th, 2023. So that gave us total expenses for the medical fund of $66,618,600, which we're just looking at our revenue coming in for the year, taking off our expenses, we were at a loss of $2,298,283. But when you offset that against the beginning net position of $54 million, we're left with $52,287,054 in the medical fund. And if you want to go to the balance sheet, we'll go to the next one. So just to look at the balance sheet, again, this is July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2023. We had assets totaling $59,797,797. We have liabilities of $7,510,743, leaving us with an ending net position of $52,287,054. And we have a chart at the bottom. We can just walk through this. This is kind of where we tie to. Just to give you, again, an overview of where we're at, our net position for June 2023 was $52,287,054. And of that, we have a 60-day claim reserve we have to hold for, and that's $9,104,595. We have a 5% reserve fund of $2.8 million and an unrestricted fund of $4,369,052, which gives us, again, a total of $52,287,054. Okay, Phyllis, our next one should be dental. Again, the same format. We had a beginning net position in the dental fund of $973,344. And then we break out our income by employee contributions for the year. They came in at $1,079,213. The board contributed $2,226,648 for a total contribution of both, and a little over $3.3 million. Some miscellaneous income items, we have those folks that received or purchased Cobra, were a part of FMLA, LOA, FSC of $8,315. We had retiree premiums of $462,216, and then interest on the funds, $30,332, for total income for the dental fund of a little over $3.8 million. On the expense side, we have Humana dental claims of $3,695,571. Administrative fees of $335,844 for total expenses coming in at $4,031,415. When you look at your interest or your income coming in versus your expenses, we have a loss of $224,691. When you offset that against the beginning net position, that brings us an ending net position of $748,653. Oh, yeah, we can do the balance sheet. Okay. And the same thing on the balance sheet for the dental. Self-insurance fund, we had assets of $992,225. Liabilities of $243,572. So if you are beginning net position of $973,000, and our changes to the net position, we have a loss of $224,691. So our ending net position is $748,653. Again, we have to have 60 days of claims on hand of $534,679. We have the 5% reserve fund of $162,925, and then our unrestricted of $51,049, which total are $748,653. The last fund for our medical is our vision program. So under the vision, we had a beginning net position last year of July 1st, 2022 of $2,070,703. The income during the year, the employees' contribution was $218,079. The board contribution was $656,117. For total contributions of $874,196. The other miscellaneous income, we had Cobra FMLA miscellaneous income of $1,777, retired premium $125,966. We had interest coming in at $54,029 for total income of $1,055,968 for the vision fund. And then on the expenses, we had vision claims of $1,140,555, and it was up slightly from the prior year. We had administrative fees of $74,655. Total expenses coming in at $1,215,210. We had a slight loss in the fund revenues. Less expense, we had a $159,242 loss, and we offset that against the beginning net position. Our ending net position is $1,911,461. And again, the balance sheet follows the same format. Our assets broken out from our liabilities, so our assets made up mostly of claim on cash, $2,010,133. We had a slight accounts receivable coming in for assets totaling $2,010,444. On the liability side, we had accounts payable and estimated unpaid claims totaling $98,983. And our beginning net position again was $2,070,703. Offsetting that loss of $159,242 brings us to an ending net position at June 30th, 2023 of $1,911,461. And again, the box at the bottom will just break down what we have to have on hand for the 60 days per statute of $114,306, our 5% reserve fund, and our unrestricted of $1,750,000 for an ending net position again June 30th of $1,911,461. And that's what we presented today for year ending June 30th, 2023.
Questions?
Sure. Yeah.
Great, pass the mic back and forth there. Yeah.
So in previous insurance presentations, I remember seeing the 60-day reserve. The 5% reserve fund, I believe, is new to me. Who's setting that 5%? Where's that number coming from?
So first, you want to go back? So The 5% reserve comes back from the, there we go. So when we set aside the 5% reserve, that came from the expenditures coming in, and it has been in place as long as I can go back to see the fund. So we had that on hand as a safety measure.
So, so no one's mandating that you have a 5% reserve fund? Okay, that's just a district decision.
Right.
Okay.
Committee.
Okay, committee decision. Okay.
By the whole committee.
Yes.
All right, that's all I had for that right now.
Okay. Phyllis, you display an agenda and then you got to check on her again. Okay, so the second piece relative to budget. And so Mr. DeGutis presented the budget. I think he's got some follow-up as well this morning or this evening. And then the latest from the prior session was he had questions that you wanted to reserve until tonight. So we have reserved that time for you.
Okay.
Right?
Just real quickly, there's no reason for suggestion that it needs to stay any longer. So we would just have them here for purposes of seeing the insurance presentations.
Sorry.
So,
We
Jose,
gotta go.
Shar, you guys can go home if you like.
Yeah.
Did you want to clarify things first, or do you want me to ask my question?
Well, let me correct. I didn't present the budget last time. It was
Yeah,
Gretchen.
that's what I
Excuse
thought.
me.
Yes.
Right,
I did.
Gretchen will, I'll jump in if I need to, but she can.
Okay. So did you want to give your follow-up first, or did you want me to ask my question?
No, I think, go ahead and ask.
Okay. So the Family Growth Empowerment Scholarship and the vouchers, right? Some of this is new to the budget and it's been expanded and whatnot. For everyone else that's watching that is not privy to all of this Florida legislature, could you guys explain how that money gets given to the district and then how it ends up getting to parents and the ins and outs of that program?
Do you get the money back?
So, what I can tell you is this year, after the legislative session, they redid the way family empowerment scholarships were. This is the first year they've done it the way they did it, offering scholarships to either homeschoolers or parents that wanted to go to private schools. And again, different this year. So the numbers we were given for the number of students that are going to be coming to St. Johns County, those numbers were put into our FTE. So when we looked at the beginning of the numbers, the amount of revenue coming in for the new year was about $48 million. In those numbers was built in the family empowerment scholarships.
Okay.
So the families apply for them, they get the scholarships, it goes into an account. So whether they go to a private school or they're homeschooled, they can draw on those funds, meaning the entity can draw on those funds to pay the bills. Where students register there. If the students are in the district, they'll get counted in the October FTE count. So what we call cheeks in the seats. We'll turn in form, we'll have our numbers. What we don't know is how they're going to handle the private schools, the homeschoolers, how they're going to look at that. All we can do is report what we have. They don't have to come to us anymore. We don't have to report them. We were given the number and we have to follow what we have. So we only report the students we have, and then we do that in October, and then by mid-January, we receive what is the third calculation, the Florida Education Finance Program third calculation. And from everything we're told, that'll be the first time we will get an update on the numbers of students. Did they come to the projection that the state gave us or the legislature gave us, or are they off, are they more? And there's a set aside of $325 million statewide. So if the numbers, if they were underprojected at a district, the district is held harmless for 1 year.
If there's more than what was predicted.
But that's correct. That's correct. So it's an in and an out.
Right.
The money's come to us and then they're going to do that.
So it's essentially passing through
Pass through.
your budget, but like you aren't actually able to
Can't
use.
spend it.
Right. Okay.
That's correct.
And I'm assuming based on what you were saying that we don't really know what happens if a student decides to return to the public school?
So depending on when the student comes back or returns, or if they weren't successful in the private school,
Mm-hmm.
they can come back to the public school. And if the student is here for our FTE count, we can count them in, they're here by October. If they come in the end of October or November, we
We
won't
never
be
see
able
the
to
money.
count them until the spring when we have our next count.
And so I assume we would get a prorated amount back for them then?
Well, we're not sure yet.
Okay.
This is new territory.
Okay.
Right. So
Okay.
we're still waiting to hear what happened from last year, because last year the people that took scholarships, it was the same thing.
Okay. And you may have said this last time, but I don't have it written down. I don't remember. How many students did we have last year who got this scholarship versus
We had 1,700,
1,700?
and they projected an additional 850 for us this year. So I think the projection was 2,619.
Okay.
And the way they're funded, it's a little bit different. They get an average, they receive an average. So for St. Johns County, the students, if you took a scholarship, it's about $7,793.57, unless you have an IEP to back that. If you have an IEP, you'll get whatever the IEP.
The funding for that. Okay.
Mhm.
And you know the increase, sorry, my voice is really bad too tonight, but the reason why there's such an increase too in numbers is because there was an income limitation last year, and this year there still are tiers. There's tier 1, tier 2, but then there's no income limitations
Mhm.
after tier 2. And my understanding is that everybody was funded
And-
regardless of income
And
level.
homeschool was added in
Yes.
addition, right?
That's
Okay.
correct.
Yeah, that's why there's such a big
Right.
increase as they open it to everybody.
So if, let's just say that you have right now, so the money is in the general fund right now from the FEFP to account for those 2619.
We don't have it yet, but it's booked. Right.
It-
We
it's
should get it
budgeted.
through the miscellaneous payment.
Right, you'll get it. Okay. So the money is supposed to be there at some point or whatever it is. And when my kid decides I'm going to homeschool my child, I let DOE know. It's not even, I don't even have to let the district know. I just let the DOE know, or do I let the district know?
You have, as a parent, you have to go through Step Up for students, and there's 2 state programs you have to go and apply to. And once you apply, you turn in your paperwork, that's how that is set up, and those dollars are,
You withdraw.
you withdraw from the district if you were in the district, or you just go in and this account is set up, and that funds are drawn on that to pay that entity.
Okay.
Yeah, you basically, in a nutshell, for let's say you're just an FES, I want to go to private school A, you fill out an application, you provide your income to show whether you meet
Mhm.
any of the different criteria levels. You submit your application, and usually within a couple of weeks, you hear back. And if you are approved, like Gretchen was saying, we have an average number. It's probably in the 7,000s, I'm guessing.
7,700.
Yeah, so 7,700. So if you apply for a regular old FES scholarship, you want to go to private school, you get approved, that $7,700 goes into an account, and then you go pick a private school, and then you give your private school your enrollment number, and then the private school just works with the funding organization,
Mhm.
Step Up, or AAA is the other one, to take that money down. So the only thing the district typically will get is the withdrawal to where you're withdrawing to, and then all the money flows between the state and the private school.
So let's say it's a homeschool situation. Does the parent get that money all at once up front?
Again, it's set up in an account.
Okay.
From what our understanding is, and then they can draw on those funds for books, for their
Okay.
curriculum at home.
Gotcha. Okay. All right.
Good question. So those are some questions we're asking.
It's a
as
piece.
finance
Yes.
officers.
Yes.
Well, I think it's just hard because not everyone understands, and we may understand a little bit, but even the general public and,
It
you
was
know,
confusing before.
Yeah.
it's even more confusing. So if you go over the 2619, then you guys would qualify for the hold harmless dollars.
Correct. But if every district in the state goes over their projection, there's only $325,000.
right.
So
Million.
Correct.
Sorry,
Million.
I was
Only
like,
325 million, and it would just be
Okay.
however it would work.
First
out.
come, first serve.
Pretty much.
And 1 year.
And it's only for
Only
1
1
year.
Okay.
Okay.
I think in terms of the
Mhm.
budget presentation, we're good on questions for now.
Okay,
Yes.
so can I give you one more update?
Yeah.
Because we are, when we met the last time, we were still in the process of running numbers, and we have a tentative unaudited numbers for the fund balance.
Okay.
So if you give me just a few minutes, I
That'd be
promise
great.
I won't take up too much of the time. Phyllis, can you bring up the fund balance slide,
Okay.
please? I just wanted to walk everybody, okay, I'm going to the stage. Oh, perfect. So again, this is just the general fund, and for those of you that have heard me before, we have various checkbooks or funds in the school district. We're just looking at the general fund. We're not looking at the food service fund or the capital program or the debt service, just the general fund. This is where we pay our salaries and benefits, the majority of them in the district, and it's for fiscal year ended June 30th. And it's broken out by year, so June 30th, 2013, June 30th, 2014, you can see it all the way over. So, Phyllis, maybe you can make it just a tad smaller. Oh, there, you got it, great. So again, this is fiscal year ending June 30th, 2023, and I asked it because it is unaudited financials. So fund balance is broken out by the Governmental Accounting Standards Board in certain categories. What is, go up a little bit, perfect. So our categories that are broken out are non-spendable, then we have restricted, committed, and assigned. And what do all these categories mean? Well, in the non-spendable category, we have $2,766,000, and these are items that cannot be converted to cash. They are textbooks, or they are prepaid items. If we have to buy textbooks early in the year, they cannot be converted to cash. So you can see over the years, the number fluctuates depending on what we have to purchase. But this last year it was $2 million. We had set aside $2,766,000 in fund balance for that. The restricted amount are items restricted for certain categorical at the state level. So if the state provided us dollars and there's money left at June 30th, we have to hold that in reserve. So these are all being held in reserve. So that's $2,768,000. Under our committed side, this is the amount designated as non-routine, and part of this is our 3%. So we go back and you look at the FEFP, or the Florida Education Finance Program, and you see the revenue on the FEFP, you multiply by 3%, and that is our $13,885,000. So that's the revenue we have coming in, and you can see it's grown because our revenue as a district has grown every year as our student growth. So that's where we're at this year. That's our 3% set aside based on state mandate. Our assigned dollars are those dollars that actually belong to the schools. This is the advanced placement funds. This is the IB dollars. This is the extended school day, or extended school day.
Extended day.
Extended day.
This is extended day
No school.
for the school. This is also the SAC money, the school advisory council. This is a whole bunch of ways. I'm going to look at my list. It's industry certification. It's school camps. It's the school energy rebates. It's the exceptional student education dollars. We have district department encumbrances, including transportation and maintenance. So an encumbrance is, we have to purchase something, and we have to process a purchase order. So the dollars are encumbered on the fund, but if it's not spent by June 30th, that encumbrance rolls forward. So that liability's got to roll forward for the next year because we did order it and we have to pay for it yet. So those are dollars set aside set aside in the assigned line, and that is $24,466,000. Our unassigned balance, and again, you can see over the years fluctuates. This is anything that's not attributed to these other categories. And you can see we had to use our $298,000 that we had remaining. So total fund balance at June 30th unaudited. June 30th, 2022, we were at $48,181,000. This last June 30th, 2023, we dropped 43 to $43,885,000. So it's a drop of $4,296,000. So Phyllis, if we can go down just a little bit. And again, we just talked about the decrease. So what we have to do to come up with what is our unrestricted fund balance, what is our financial condition ratio, you have to offset it by the total revenue. So the total revenue the school district received last year was $453,619,000. So of that, our fund balance makes up 9.7%. And our unrestricted, which is our assigned and unassigned fund balance, is actually 5.4%. So it's better bold down here. So we can say we were unrestricted before at 13, at the end of June 30th, 2021, our unrestricted fund balance was 13.5%. June 30th, 2022, we dropped to 7.7%. And at June 30th, 2023, we dropped to 5.4%.
Can she scroll back up?
Go back up.
Just back up. There, yeah, thank you.
And again, you can see what the decreases and increases were in fund balance over the years. Went up 77,901,000, went down, or went up slightly. In June 30th, 22, our fund balance dropped 20,331,000. On top of it, this last June, we dropped 4,296,000. So just within the last 2 years, we've dropped 24,627,000 in our fund balance.
Now you can go back down. Nope, the other way. The other way.
To the bottom, yeah.
Yeah, the bottom.
Again, unaudited. So that was just, I wanted to bring that up.
I do have a question. So you said that you did transfer money from the medical fund into which category is that in?
Oh, that's a great question. So in general, when we transferred it back in, it came in as revenue. So it's revenue and transfers in. So when you're looking at what did we transfer in, we transferred dollars from the capital fund, from the food service fund, from the medical insurance fund, and that totaled a little over $18 million. So even with that,
18 million.
those dollars being transferred in and the revenue we received, we still had expenses more, and our fund balance dropped $4.2 million.
Can I ask what is currently in capital outlay?
When you mean the dollar amount?
Mm-hmm.
About, at June 30th, it was roughly $424 million.
Thank you.
And again, those dollars, we just don't willy-nilly just transfer them into the general fund. It's got to be for
Understand.
expenses that are covered in the general fund. And that's why I said these are unaudited. We have to bring these unaudited financials to the board next Tuesday the 12th. And then the auditor general audits from now on, so we bring the audited financials in December.
Okay. Is there any way we could get copies of this?
Sure. I can send it to you. Again, it's unaudited. I just want to be
Right. You could also, per I think House Bill 1, you could also transfer money out of transportation as well, correct? Transportation salaries could be transferred out of capital outlay into the general revenue as well.
Expenses.
Salaries.
Well, the salaries come out of the general fund.
But I think House Bill 1 allowed.
Okay, it did open up
Yes.
the window. However, on like a district such as St. Johns County is growth. We have to offset that now. We don't want to hurt one fund against the other. So this next year, last year we opened Beachside High School. Next year, we're gonna open up 2 K-8s. So a lot of the money that you hear in the general fund or the capital outlay fund is that money. It's for those schools that we haven't opened up yet. So again, we have to offset that by what it is.
The
I
transportation
don't
dollars,
think that answered my question,
the
but
transportation dollars that we get from the state doesn't pay
Right.
for what we spend on it.
doesn't pay salaries.
Well, it doesn't cover
Meet
what
the
we spend
cost.
on transportation.
Right. We
So
receive
we'd
about
transfer
15
into negative.
million. I'm sorry, we receive about 15 million for transportation, but we spend about 24 million.
Jesse had some questions. We're gonna,
Sorry, could I just, could you zoom it out just a smidge so I can see the total revenue again? The 450-ish million number.
Right there,
There we go, yeah.
453.
453. So that is 20-ish million more dollars of total revenue.
Right, we have
than
more
what was presented
students.
as- I guess we found 20 million bucks between last time we talked and now.
Well, we had transfers coming in.
Okay.
Okay, last time we didn't have the transfers
All right.
in, so 18 of it was transfers.
Well, plus last time you were looking at 23, 24 revenue. That revenue is the 22, 23 revenue.
Okay.
This would be in your AFR.
Right.
This is what you're going to submit to your, for your
You
AFR.
looked at the budget last time for this year, 23,
Right, this is
24.
actual
This is the
financials.
actual
So
Okay.
this is the actual spec.
for 23,
Okay.
22,
On our-
23.
So this is what I'm going to see, or at least close to this, will be all coming on the AFR.
Yep.
Mhm, Correct.
Okay. And this is the more concrete version of what the budget used to be.
This is our actual spend.
Okay,
The budget is a projection.
gotcha.
All right. Put you on the right track.
I'm getting there, slowly but surely. No, I'm good.
Okay.
Okay. But we can send that. I can send it.
Send it to me.
Yeah, we would like a copy of that.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Maureen?
Not right now.
Okay. All right. So we wanted to go with compensation.
Going to move around on the agenda.
Move on.
Okay.
We're
Okay.
gonna move compensation up.
That's fine.
Sure.
After
Does it relate?
financials, it makes sense.
Flexible agenda.
That's-
Yeah.
That's why we did it.
That works for us.
Flow.
Go with the flow.
They all relate.
What?
They all relate.
They do. Correlate. Correlation.
One shape or form, right?
Oh, God.
I didn't want,
I was like, oh, no.
I would probably fall too. My luck.
Okay, so just as Morgan, you said earlier, this is all new with the vouchers and the House Bill 1 and all this other stuff that we're dealing with. What we're going to show you tonight, number one, is just a concept. The word offered isn't anywhere on here. Okay?
Sorry,
Just-
before you begin, do you have this to display so they can see it? Is it in
we
Phyllis's
got
files?
that. And I
Thank you.
can send it to you.
Okay.
But we should have it.
Making sure.
Yep. So anyways, it is only an idea, it's only a concept. We weren't sure if what you were bringing for an idea and or concept for compensation.
Okay.
But I want to preface a couple of things before we delve in here. Over the last few years, we have seen the more veteran teachers, if you will, not get as high a raise as some of the lower teachers, all because of the legislation, all because of the language that came in with the teacher salary increase allocation. And so we have, over the last really 4 years, but last 3.5, we have compressed our salary schedule, right? We basically left 6, 7, 8 year and older teachers alone and compressed up all of the newer teachers. And so what this is an attempt to, I have been hearing, gonna try to stretch the accordion back out.
Okay.
Okay, now, we don't have $18 million on hand to do that, because that's the total amount of TSIA. But we think this is a good step toward that. And so just kind of bear with me as we explain this through. And it's gonna be a little choppy because we kind of have to set through some calculations. So this first, or the second to the bottom box, I'm on the spreadsheet side, okay?
Oh,
You got
okay.
the spreadsheet side, and then you got
Yeah,
the
okay.
formula side. So we're on the spreadsheet side. So the second box to the bottom that says 2023-24 FRS FICA. So those are your rates, the 13.57%. Every employee for the school district, that's eligible for FRS. 13.5% of your paycheck gets paid by the board and goes to the retirement system in Tallahassee. 7.65 gets paid to Social Security, the FICA account. So the sum of those is 21.22, right? 13.57 plus 7.65. The total amount of dollars we have available for TSIA this year from the legislature increase. Now, it's total of roughly $18 million, but roughly $4 million of that is to pay for what we've already agreed to, right? So the new money, the available money, if you will, is the 4,347,509. So the math that you have to do here, typically whether it's TSIA or Best and Brightest or merit award pay or whatever salary compensation package, right? You know them all, Tammy, you probably can name them better than I can. Over the years, which none of them have lasted, obviously, which tells us something else about our legislature. Over the years, what we have had to do, basically they're grants. And so no different than Title I and IDEA, we've got to take out of that total amount and set aside a portion to pay that 21.22%, right? So heretofore, at least with TSIA, the teachers, no teacher, whether it's a first and second year teacher or a 35-year teacher, no one has gotten 100% of the money because with this, at least this year, because FRS changes every year, increases every year, the board has to set aside those dollars to pay the benefits based on those salary increases. So what you typically do is you say, okay, I've got $4.3 million, I'm going to divide by 1.2122 to come up with the amount of money that's available for pay for performance. Okay, and so and it says longevity, but don't get hung up on that yet. We'll talk about that later. So that would leave $3,586,000 that last year we put into the formula. You get your highly effective, you get your effective in your grandfather, and that's what your raise would be. And then the board would use the balance of those dollars to pay the FICA and the FRS on that. So the set aside for that is the $761,047, and of course we add that back and just make sure that the math balances. So typically what we would say at this juncture, you have available $3.8 million to distribute in some way, shape, or form. Again, heretofore, that would have been through the formula. Going forward, maybe some other conceptual idea we're coming up with tonight. Well, that bottom box says we now have the full $4,347,509 available. $3,371,000 of it is going into longevity and or retention. Maybe we need to call it retention. Again, this is concept. So this is what's that say? Draft working papers today's date. So this is not an offer.
We got it.
We can change things as we go. And $976,009 would go into the pay for performance formula. So said another way, your board has heard you, your superintendent has heard you, and their staffs have heard you, that the board will contribute out of other funds $761 to pay for the benefits.
Thousand. 761,000.
What'd I say?
760.
$761.
Oh, well, yeah.
You're correct if we weren't on a microphone.
We gotcha.
So the board would pay the full $761,000 out of other funds in order to give teachers 100% of the TSIA money. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. All right, so let's go to flip the page. We're on our third step of our lesson plan here. Okay, you laugh.
I was gonna say, you know how to write a lesson plan, Mike.
Yes, I did.
For this.
I've had a couple of good lessons on that. Two reading sessions on that, I should say. Okay, so if you go to the, well, you don't have the, but on available funding, it would be probably, it's this one right here. We see the $976,009. This, everything else is the same as last year, even the number of teachers and the weights, and because we currently do not have our data scores on the 22-23 teachers.
Right.
We only have the observable, so we're just, for discussion purposes, we're using last, which we've always done.
Correct.
We're a little bit
Correct.
ahead of it.
Percentage of
Yep.
highly
So what
effective.
would happen there is you're highly effective, now you're only basically putting in a little less than $1 million. So the highly effective would be $314, and the effective and grandfather would be $236, okay? Doesn't sound like a lot, but when you add that back to, go to the front page again, and now we're in the top box. If I'm, so, and we'll go left to right on the top. So you've got years of experience, 1 to 2, you've got 1,135 teachers, 3 to 5, you got 534, excuse me, 689 in the 6 to 10 year span, 11 through 15 is 318, and you have 648 teachers with 16 years experience or more, okay? So then, of course, being the math guy I am, you can't do a row or a column without looking what the
Adding them
percentages
up.
are, right?
Yeah.
So if you look at that, for 1 to 5 years, 50% of our teachers are in that category. I find that very interesting, if not alarming.
I'm very
Found the
scared.
same thing when I got those numbers as well.
Okay. So in the next column,
Who they
which
want to.
we would refer to henceforth as the retention factor, let's start at the bottom. So a teacher with 16 or more years experience would get a factor of 1 or 100%. Your 11 to 15 teachers would get a 0.7. Your 6 to 10 teachers would get a 50%, 0.5. 3 to 5 would get 0.35. And your 1 to 2 teachers would get 0.25 of that. So come back over and just do the math on that. So that's $500 for 1 to 2 years, $700 for 3 to 5, $1,000 for 6 to 10, $1,400, and $2,000 for 16 and over. And so let's pause there for a second. Someone would say, now wait a minute, your newer teachers are only getting $500 or $700 for retention / longevity, whatever you want to call it. But remember, in the last 4 years, they have gone from a $38,000 salary to a $48,624 salary, or $48,600 and something salary. So to stretch out that accordion, you have, the old, what's that saying, a rising tide lifts all boats. Well, we can't really have a rising tide because for the last 4 years, there was a tsunami at the lower end of the scale and a trickle at the end, and now we're trying to reverse that. Okay. So then you do the math again, and you have the total. So with all of the teachers at 1 to 2, you got 567,000, 373,000, 689,000, and then for the 16 years and over is almost 1.3 million. Then you have the pay for performance. The other thing we're doing here is we're assuming everyone is highly effective for a couple of reasons. Number one, we don't really have the data scores, as I mentioned. We really don't have 3,324 teachers. We're probably close to 3,500 teachers, and 95% of our teachers are highly effective the last couple of years. So any change in those factors, the end result is going to be relatively immaterial, right? And so you pay for performance, we plugged it all in there, and this is all for basically balancing purposes. And so let's jump down to the box that says recap. So your 1 to 2 teachers, you got a retention longevity of 500. If I'm highly effective, that's 314. So my highly effective plus longevity, I would get an $814 increase. If I'm a 3 to 5 teacher, I'm getting $1,014. If I'm a 6 to 10 teacher, I'm getting $1,314. If I'm an 11 to 15 teacher, I'm getting $1,714. If I'm 16 years more, I get $2,314. And then, of course, if you want to look, we just, again, we don't know the total breakdown between highly ineffective, effective, and grandfathered by years of experience yet, but you would see those there as well. And we're doing worst case scenarios. So at the end of the day, the board would be putting in a full $4.4 million, roughly $67,000, plus the $761,000 that they're paying for benefits on those salary dollars for our teachers. End of lesson. Questions, comments?
And
And again, I will reiterate, this is only a concept. Okay? If you have, and no one at this table is married to this, we're not married to this. If you want to come in and you want to say, hey, I want to change, Jesse's doing some math over here, I want to change, 1 to 2 and 3 to 5 to both be 35, and 6 to 10, 11, 15 be, 0.67, and, y'all do.
Right.
And I will, as soon as we step out of here, I will send this probably to you guys.
Okay.
I send it to Polly, I guess. And then you can mess with it all the way you want. The green box at the top is where you input your largest, or your 16 and over, if you will, longevity retention supplement. And then basically it's a very simple spreadsheet, super simple, but it should look pretty well. And we've got some balancing figures in there, so. You clarify anything you need to as well.
So just a reminder that the years of experience are in St. Johns County School District. So this is years of experience in St. Johns County School District, like we did it the last time that we did the longevity. So I don't want to confuse anybody that's a brand new teacher who brought in 16 years this year, who would believe that this applies to them.
Okay, so I'm gonna make a comment right off the bat where it's the people who have brought in those years of experience who are compressed. It's not the people who have been in St. Johns County for that long. So
Okay, that's good. Good input.
Would, if you, let me think. Let me think of how I want to word it. Go ahead.
So this is the amount, the 761.
Here, I'll
is what the
talk
district
for
is
you.
contributing,
plus the 67.
Plus the 67, 727, okay.
I'll,
And before you go on, just to clarify that, so the 761 is basically fixed.
Yes,
67,000 will go up and down.
Yeah,
correct,
Do the
depending on the
Distribution. But
distribution.
at the end of the day, the point is, we only have $4.3 million to distribute.
Yeah.
And we have, Gretchen's presentation and the $25 million that we've lost in the last 2 years to support that.
And the only point I would make to Mr. DeGudis's comments, obviously we have statutory formulas when it comes to performance pay for highly effective and effective. So if we tweak this formulas in here, we're just got to make sure whatever we get to the finish line with matches what statutorily we've got to do. So that's why it was presented more as a concept, because as we toy with the numbers, it may need some revisions to it.
And I don't think it can be called longevity, but I understand where you're coming from.
It's
yeah,
Stupid Florida legislature, heaven forbid you reward someone for what longevity really means.
it's retention.
Yes, retention.
Yes,
Actually,
we make the
copy
dumbest
it.
rule.
Workforce stabilization.
Where you go, workforce safety. The dumbest rules ever. Okay.
all right.
I have a question.
Sally has a question.
Mr. DeGudis, so the number of teachers that you have in the different years of experience categories,
Yes, ma'am.
that's based on the current total instructional staff in St. Johns County, not necessarily what Kathy was talking about with the in St. Johns County years of experience. These are 3,500, or are these just the people
No,
that Ms. Weber was talking
No,
about?
that's a great question. So that
Okay.
that 3,324 teachers, that's actually what we used last year for the 22-23
Okay.
salary distribution of the pay for performance. So just to keep it constant from one actual document to a conceptual document, we wanted to keep something
Keep it
constant,
separate.
and that's the only thing we had constant, to help balance it out. So what we will do when we have all of our, evaluation information on our teachers, that will be closer to probably 3,600, distributed from 1 to 16 and over, and we'll redo the map. But just to get the concept out there, it's gonna be close.
So
But-
how would that affect the numbers that you're talking about if we're looking at, do we know how many teachers?
Yeah, so
Okay.
we'll have to
Okay.
tweak that out.
Like 1 to
Okay.
2 came, as you can see, there
Right, but I,
specific numbers that came from.
so yeah, because I did a public records request for this information, and to my understanding, it is that it's the total number of teachers that you have 1 to 2 years experience, period, not just in the district. So 11 to 15 years experience that they've brought in, and may have some of them in St. Johns County. I could be wrong, but these numbers match what I got in my public records request. So then I feel like if we're going with what you're saying, Kathy, then these numbers are going to drastically change. So,
Well, but that's because that's based off of what your suggestion was, so we will take that suggestion in there.
Okay.
We can-
Not tonight, we're gonna have to
Right.
do some, we need to get, let's not worry how much spice you have in the soup, let's make sure we know what the soup we're gonna make. And so let's get to agreement on that, at least on the concept, and then we can worry about
Okay.
spicing it up, so to speak.
So the bottom line is that what you're presenting is that there's $4.3 million
Yes, ma'am.
that can be spent. However, depending on, yes, I mean, ultimately,
Can I, so here's
Yes.
what I would say.
Yeah.
And our guys have heard it. Let me say this.
don't peel the onion.
No, just the opposite. We're giving you the idea. So this is just one idea.
Yes.
You've got $4.3 million, and how you all want to spend it is really up to you. As long as Mr. Harmon says, it's within the compliance with the law, and we use some component of that and pay for performance. Really and truly, how you guys come up with it,
Right.
I mean, I'm not sure we're married to that either.
Right.
Right?
Gotcha.
So,
anything else?
then-
Did you think of your question yet?
Nope.
Nope.
We're good. We're good.
The pressure killed her.
No. I answered it myself in my head.
Okay.
So you're talking to yourself?
That's what she's doing over there.
I clarified.
Oh, Jen, that's why we love you.
Yeah, you do read it. I thought I was bad.
Am I ready?
Yes. Your cheeks are low.
Article 6.
Are you ready to move on to Article 6?
I am, yeah.
comments? Okay. So this was part of our technical difficulty.
Okay.
It's going to be hard to follow.
Hey, that's it.
So I'm going to do my best to go through each
We'll
one.
do our
Just
best.
because I know your voice. Normally, I know you have a pretty strong voice, but
Yeah, usually pretty loud.
here's the mic.
Thank you. We can share this too. I don't know if she. Yeah, I've got a side by side. I'm gonna try to go through.
Here's your.
Yeah, I could use an extra one too. I think it's. More. Sure, there's one left over.
Sure. I got one.
Do you need another one?
No.
We have
yeah,
extras
We've
over
got
here.
an extra of the
Oh,
ones we
yeah.
just handed out. I love to steal them back. It's gonna be real hard to follow just looking at it, I promise.
Take one for yourself.
I'm gonna email you the color coded one.
Okay.
But even that's a little different.
But it's in green, so,
It got screwy.
because I do everything in green and it's a lot more visible. We'll email that with the,
Green,
Okay.
Irish, really?
You would have been messing with Justin because he's colorblind, but he's not here anymore. So
but I'll send it along with the.
Perfect. Perfect.
Widget.
Thank you.
Okay, Article 6.
So I'm just gonna go in order and try to show you what your
Maybe easier
proposal
for this.
was.
Oh,
Thank you. Here, I just need this. That any better?
ask them. I can hear you.
Can y'all hear me okay? Yes, I think so. Okay, so what I'm gonna try to do is just
It's on
go
screen.
article by
Green.
article, explain what your proposal was. Oh, that's way better. And then show you what our counter to that proposal is. So on the screen, I believe if you track this, the green highlighting are areas that in your proposal you deleted. We added that back in.
Okay.
That was us, I guess, rejecting your counter or whatever that proposal was that deleted it. The red is where there was a proposal that you had made that we struck through. So that was what we rejected, is whatever's red with a strike through. And then whatever's black strike through is your strike throughs. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I tried to write it all down, and it's even
I
harder
got
on
it.
this. Okay. Again, for those that, I'll do it, say one more time for everybody. Green is the district's rejection of deleted language. Red is the district's rejection of struck through language. And black is where I think you've proposed a rejection. With most of these are self-explanatory.
You got it, what he's saying? Yeah.
Yeah, does that
Okay,
make sense?
Okay.
Is it not still not making sense?
No,
It's
we got
okay.
it.
You're good.
Lauren
Go
has got
ahead.
it.
Okay. I'll give you a minute to read what's on the screen. And we could just go through it all. And if you want to do questions as we go, or just wait till the end after you have a chance to go discuss the proposal,
Okay.
whatever you desire. So on E, and I'm going to explain some of them I'll just kind of breeze over. With E, we were both tinkering with language about what is and what is not a classroom interruption. And so we just tried to shorten it up and say every effort will be made to prevent classroom interruptions.
Okay.
You could scroll down. Let me make sure. Then we're all the way down to K, right?
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah, right there.
K was, I believe, a addition that was added that you had proposed. We had struck through accepting that proposal. That was our response. In L, your strike through was make every effort to, and I think your proposal was try to make equitable, is I believe what was in yours. Or sorry, try to make equitable is ours. Your proposal was to strike through, make every effort. So that would be our counter, what's in the red non-strike through.
Okay.
And I think go down to R. And this was I think one of the points that you had made when we went through kind of some of these overview was in some of the areas where you'd like to be treated more like the professionals that you are. That was what we felt like your proposed deletions were acceptable, which is all of those provisions within section R that required justification for that flex time or for taking off, and just accepting all of those deletions for having to justify why you're asking for the time off. The green area is language that you had deleted entirely. Our counter is to put that back in. This doesn't show correctly, and Mr. King may assist me on this one. On the red, I believe what our proposal, it wasn't to delete all of that. It was to go from 180 minutes a month of flex time to 60 minutes a month of flex time. I don't know why it shows as a deletion, but in our proposal, there is supposed to be that flex time. We went with 15 minutes a week. And let's see.
So is that, no. Is that correct? No.
So it,
Yes.
except it should say 100, or get rid of the 180. It'll say employees shall be entitled to use 60 minutes of flexible time per month.
That's fine.
You get the concept.
We get the
right?
concept.
Okay. And then
So D, you just added language.
in D, correct. You had deleted it in addition to the above flexibility, and our counter was to add that back in.
Okay.
And then the green also, the second part, if it is their opinion, deleted, our counter was to keep that back in. And green is everything we're proposing to put in or undelete. Thank you.
The green sentence in D, if in your opinion it is justified, needs to be struck through. Because we struck it through up top, and that was what their
Oh,
complaint
right,
was.
right,
It
yeah,
was
that's a
that
good
they
point.
were having to
Yep.
justify the
Mhm.
reason for leaving. So we
Right.
struck it out
That's fine.
top, and it should be struck out.
Yep.
too.
Good catch. guys.
You know what? Can I make a suggestion possibly? This may help. If you want to revert back to contract language, just put it back in black. Just the same
Again,
language.
That's why we were a little bit late
Okay,
today, trying to
'cause
get this
I'm like,
coded correctly.
Yeah, I mean, I would just put the original contract language in black
I
and just
agree.
revert back to that.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Nope, I have no objections to that at all.
Okay.
And then in U,
So just go back to the
Yeah.
note really quick.
which
Under
one?
D,
No,
the
under
note,
D.
Yeah,
under D, at the very bottom of the page, Phyllis. Is that,
Keep going, Phyllis, a little bit more.
the one at the bottom,
yeah,
Just scroll up a little bit more.
that was adding back
There you
in
go.
what you had deleted.
okay.
Original contract language.
Correct. That's the original contract language. Much better.
So green is original contract language.
With the exception of that 60 minutes.
That's
Gotcha.
the only thing you guys,
Yeah, that's what I,
added. Okay.
yes.
that clarifies. things a
That
little bit.
clarifies
Yeah.
everything.
And then in one,
We took out teacher.
I think we just kept it original contract language in 1, 2, 3,
Yeah.
4, and then 5 and 6 was, 5 was rejection of the proposal, 6 was a counter to the proposal on the 2 preps. So the green is not original contract language there. The green is our proposed counter.
Because that
We-
was,
listen, we
6
were
was
trying.
never, 6 was
I'm-
never original contract language, so that's why.
6 is
Yeah.
the
Was
original.
theirs.
So the 6,
Yeah.
every effort will be made not to assign a teacher is your counter to
So that-
us.
To
Yes.
your addition of all of 6.
Because 5 and 6 were
I know, I
our
got it.
additions.
I got it.
Yeah.
I'm having to side by side
Yeah.
yours to mine.
Yeah.
And we can pull that up back there.
Just
too.
the
I can-
colors got screwed up
Yeah.
in it. So we were trying to fix it before we came in, but
I am a use black.
we just did this, Tammy, to confuse you.
I
That was the
figured you did because
whole-
I was like thoroughly
whole
confused.
goal.
I'm like, what are you proposing?
Just whatever we could to make it confusing for you.
It doesn't take much anymore.
Okay. Go down to the next page. I don't believe, I think the rest of it was, there was no counter. It was not an acceptance of the language, I believe, except for DD. DD, the red is
Okay.
your proposal, and then we added the green. But I think too, does that not dovetail into, and were we going to do it this way?
So what we had looked at for D was, I think philosophically, we're okay with the idea of those dates, October 16th, January the 4th, March 18th being remote. Those are planning days. But our proposal there would be to do that as an MOU for this year.
Okay.
So all of DD is strike, the whole thing.
Because it's into an MOU.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
So I think conceptually, the board we're okay with the idea, right?
Mhm.
It's good. And then, so that language there kind of codifies
I
that.
think the point too is let's see how it goes when it's
Okay.
in an MOU. If it's something, it's something to rediscuss at the end, but it was just not wanting to put it in without
Okay.
giving it a shot first.
Is that family?
And I can email that version to you.
Yes.
Yes, we'll fix the coloring.
Thank you. Or I can fix it too.
Yeah, we'll fix it.
That was the delay.
Okay.
I'm going to send that right now.
Sorry.
With me. Wow. Tammy, yours is Tammy.Whitaker@Florida EA.
Yes, sir.
Do
And you got Morgan's.
we want to do that stuff and all? You guys,
So if we're looking at you, what is our reasoning for not agreeing to committing to planning periods being just for teacher-directed individual instructional planning?
Sorry, Sam, let me pull that back.
It's okay.
So I'm going to answer a question with a question.
Okay.
Are all your current planning periods fully teacher directed?
No. We are, at the high school level, I can speak for, I can't speak for elementary and middle school. At the high school level, we are expected to PLC at least once a week with our professional learning community.
And that, and so with the PLC portion,
Mhm.
if you put teacher directed individual, then it raises the concern that that carves out PLCs as something that happens during that period of time.
Right. So we had put in, that's why we had the number 5, that really we could leave it up to the professional learning community, whether they wanted to meet before school or during their planning period. So if the PLC decided as a team to choose to do that, then that wouldn't have been an issue.
And so was it your perspective by adding in paragraph 5 that's been deleted that PLCs are solely determined by individual teacher? Because as I read number 5, what you're saying is that PLC shall not be required during planning periods unless the decision is made by the PLC team, right?
Right.
But then at the same time, you're adding that it's individualized determination. So it seemed to be counter to one another, at least as I read paragraphs 5 as well as you with that opening.
Okay. I think the intent was to keep planning time protected for the individual teacher. And again, if they choose as a team that they want to use that planning time once a week to meet with the PLC team, then they could, or they can move it to a morning that best suits them, or depending on, if it's a middle school, then it would obviously be the afternoon. But part of the reasoning is there are lots of PLC teams who work wonderfully together and they find it a productive use of their time and it takes a lot off their workload. But there are also PLCs that are not that way and they find it a waste of their time and it's just eating up that 50 minutes that they really desperately need.
I know from the district's perspective, and those around me can correct me if I'm wrong, but PLC should not be wasting time. That's an important function. And I think the concern is, and I understand not everybody's the same. Some find it tremendously useful, but they should all be tremendously useful.
Mm-hmm.
That's the purpose of them. And I think our perspective is it's a function of planning. And if you are to go with the proposed language that is in here, it's solely individualized, teacher determined, whether or not a PLC meeting ever takes place. Like you just said, a group of teachers may find it a complete waste of time. And so if those teachers are not engaged in those PLC sessions during their planning period, I mean, it's running counter to what I think the district is hoping to do, or the district's mission is to incorporate PLCs as a way to enhance student learning.
Okay.
The proposal that is on the table it carves PLCs out of ever having to be a topic of a planning session.
Okay.
I think that's the concern with the proposed language that was in there.
So I'm getting the sense that the district thinks the PLC process is very important, which I understand. When is the last time you had a PLC training?
I've
For
never had a
teachers.
PLC training, if you're asking
Well, no,
me, but you
but-
can direct that to
right.
everybody else.
At the district level
Yes.
or school level? I think individually schools lead that. So, so I think it goes back to two things. I think the PLC terminology probably gets thrown around a bit liberally as well, right? So I think we would like some time to go back and analyze what does it mean at your school? Because you said there are some that are quite successful. What would the barometer for success be?
That they use the collaborative process and it is taking off.
To
their
what
work.
effect? Is it reflected in student data?
In student data, in teacher lesson planning, in all of the things that go
So
into
we
that
should
collaborative
have
process.
everyone be productive. Everyone should reach that level.
Right.
But I don't think we're trying to restrict planning time. The district isn't under the umbrella of PLC. I think
Okay.
we are looking to, and it's part of the narrative, to reset it, to really analyze what is happening in the schools. If there are specific incidences where all that unrestricted or teacher-directed time is being taken away under the guise of PLC, we need to know that. But I think to your point, it is largely attributed to the success that we've had through the COVID and onwards. And so, but it does need to constantly evolve as well. I think we're aware that the superintendent is passionate about it, but it wouldn't be our intent to take away planning time under the guise of PLC. That's why we corrected the language. But then also knowing that we need to distinguish between PLC planning time, collaboration time, but I think we need some time to address that throughout the course of the year and while we're building new schools.
And Sally, correct me if I'm wrong, but at the elementary level, there are principals who are requiring people to meet more than once a week in their professional learning community.
Correct.
So then their individual planning time is being diminished because principals are requiring. So maybe we need to add a provision, and obviously we can go back and counter, but maybe we need to add a provision that it can only be required once a week, right?
Yeah, I think that I have some language I can share from Flagler that we just signed off on. I think my question to you is what is the district's position? Is the district's position that PLC should occur every day during planning? I would hope not. But I do think, so there is a difference between elementary and high, elementary K-8s, middle and high, of how the PLC process is working. I mean, what is is it good to have 2 PLCs a month? Is it good to have 1 PLC a week? What is the right number?
The idea is we're trying to establish a standard because it differs from school to school, right? Some teachers have their planning, they can count on their planning time 4 times a week, and then they're going to meet with their PLC that 5th time. Whereas other teachers only have their individual planning time maybe 2 or 3 times a week, and then they're meeting with their PLC the other 2 or 3 days. And as productive as a PLC is, we still need time we can't grade in our PLC, we've got all these other things that we have to accomplish during our planning time. So have that individual planning time be taken up by PLC work all the time, it makes it tough for teachers. So we just want a standard in place.
In this, and I know you can't speak for every school,
right?
But just out of curiosity, from the feedback you've gotten, if any, from what's kind of the range that you hear at elementary, middle, high? And I understand this isn't a direct question you've asked every school, and a team may have a much different number, but just, what kind of feedback have you gotten as to the frequency that you're hearing them being done?
I have data in my spreadsheet that I can bring back when we return from caucus.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
So what would you, it might be an elementary question. So what would you do? You said you don't want all of your time taken up with PLC.
Mm-hmm.
What would you do differently in a planning time that wouldn't also be in a PLC?
I have student essays to grade. I have, I still have to grade the test before we can then discuss the data at my PLC meeting. So I need time to do that. I'm sending parents emails. I might have another prep that I have to then plan for. I agree, but I think it's difficult, right? Because I'm not sure you can put a consistent number on it because it is radically different from elementary to secondary.
right? We need-
Well, the DeFore training that I've been to, every time the district's offered it, so I feel I'm pretty well versed in that. Answering those 4 questions in your PLC process, they talk about once a week.
Yeah.
Having
Sure.
ideally an hour once a week, and of course, the elementary schedule is so crazy, so we do have some principals being very creative. Every third Wednesday, you have 2 hours, and then you have once a week at other times. But then we
Right.
have other principals that it's, your principal and your ILC are sitting with the team 2 of your 4 times a week, and you're going to meet 3 Wednesdays in the afternoon. So it basically disseminates 75% of their individual planning. And your PLC planning is for specific essential standards. I may have 300 standards to teach this year. Only
Right.
12 of them are the essential that the whole team is working on. So I still need time to plan for the other 250.
Right, and I don't disagree, because at high school, they might have several preps, right? So they're
Correct.
PLC in
So
at
it
different
just looks
times, so I
different.
get that as well. But I think if there's egregious circumstances, we need to know that, right? And then, I think we talked about a working group that would spend time in collaboration to see what does that look like as you grow? Because you do have to take a number of preps, and you have to teach 4 or 5 different concepts, I'm sure, in 5th grade. So that was the reason that we pushed back to say we need some time to analyze our.
So what I think I'm hearing you say is you want to analyze this to see, to be able to come up with something that we can look at next year to
Yeah.
make it more
I
systematic
think
across the board.
the superintendent's passionate about it. I think we want it to work. It does work in a lot of cases, maybe highlighting how it works in those and taking the right levels that we get from people who are doing it or have been trained differently, to your point. And some of that, I think, we look at the numbers of teachers that we have, the 0 to 1 year teachers. So
Yeah.
in some
Need it.
places, it's like starting at
Mm-hmm.
base 1 every time, because you've got a whole new class. So then you're building all those norms.
Right.
That does seem like it, and it is a lot if you're redoing it all the time, right?
Mhm.
So if you're at a school that has some consistent numbers and returning teachers, these things are a lot more seamless because the culture is down. So I think we'd need time to analyze that.
Right.
We're not opposed to looking at it.
Okay.
But if we're going to put a number on it, we'd need to have some research by it and then make it aligned to the level, elementary, middle.
And then you're also interested in Michelle coming and talking about, even if she's spoken with HR before about specific situations, kind of just cutting it square one again and bringing those things up even.
I'm not going to
You are-
speak for
okay.
Michelle, but.
But you're open to that, even if
and
it's
we
something
do
that was
already
addressed
meet,
before.
and yes,
Okay.
I would welcome that. And Michelle knows that.
That's why I just asked with curiosity of any feedback on range, because when you're talking about, if you go with a specific number, it's easy when you have 7 schools.
Yeah.
But when you've got over 50 now, it's going to have to be
Yeah.
a number and so I think that looking at the data may help, and then, maybe be able to make a more informed.
Right, and
Number.
looking at the data as it relates to certain schools and retention of teachers, I mean, I think there's a lot of ways to look at it, but how do we look and gather what is really, really working? And there's some powerful PLCs that really help if you're at schools that have 10, 12, 5th grade teachers, that power of having that group together,
Right.
where it can really, really work. But then I think the training is important.
Yes.
But I hear what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want PLCs to take up every planning period that we have.
I think we agree.
I understand and hear that. I just think that was trying to find our way to what might be a solution as to it, so that it's not doing that.
Right. So we need to find some sort of a standard after we've done some more research.
Yep.
Okay.
And I think that would help with retention
Yes.
Yeah.
of teachers, so they're not so stressed. I mean, some people just can't take their work home with them. They have a second job,
They have
they have
families.
family members, they have, I mean, I look at my neighbor who's a teacher in Duval. She doesn't do any work at home because she has a 3-year-old child. And so if you don't have time during the day to do any of your work, then it just continues to pile up and pile up and pile up. So I
It's
think,
overwhelming. Yeah.
and that's overwhelming. And that's where teachers get frustrated and they're like, oh, peace out, I'm done. I'm not going to do this anymore. And that's not good for the district, not good for kids.
All right.
I think we agree.
I think
So you have, because it relates to Article 6, you have the MOU for your
Mhm.
perusal and review.
Oh,
And
yes.
So I think conceptually, it does align with some of grading periods and marking periods, so that obviously that work can be done remotely. I think just
Yeah.
trying to challenge it through there
Okay.
for that first year would be
Okay.
prudent. And then you have Article 8.
Yes.
Probably color-coded correctly.
Now it's got red.
I was going with black, but Morgan forced me to put it in red.
I
Easier to
forced Terry into
see.
green.
Well, I don't mind green. I'm looking at cost saving measures. It costs money to print in color. Oh, go ahead. Share the question.
Back to Article 6.
Yeah.
You had crossed through the justifiable activities,
What letter,
1 through
Jen?
5, but then, wait, did you uncross off
No, I think that was us.
the under C? Did you uncross?
They did.
Okay,
I'm sorry. Yes, she did. This is not correct.
okay.
This
Good
is,
catch.
yeah.
Okay.
They fixed it up there.
Yeah.
Didn't fix it
Yeah.
Yes, I remember
Okay.
that.
Did you have a question?
I did, and we kind of got lost in conversation.
Thank you.
On that same page, or at the very bottom where it says the note, time under 1 above within the outline provisions will be charged leave under 2 above. What number 1 and 2 are we talking about? Are we talking about letters, not numbers?
Yeah, because you left
Yeah.
1 and 2
So
crossed
that-
off.
We need to, are we referring to C?
A through C, maybe?
It would be,
You're talking about R?
Yeah.
yeah, it's
It's in
gonna
there,
have
yeah.
to be under,
A through C is what it should say?
yeah, that's what I'm
Okay.
guessing.
We'll double check it too, but.
It's not gonna be numeric, it
Okay.
should be
Okay.
A.
So
At a
can-
minimum B, but
I think, and maybe this is just a byproduct of communication, but I think when we looked at it, we wanted to take away, you talked about professionals, we want to take away you having, for the reasons that you'd have to justify those activities.
Right.
So I think we took that away. And then I think in continuing it, we also put back in there some of the flexible minutes piece, right?
Mhm.
Which I think initially we were like, if all of the justification reasons are off the table, you don't have to justify, right? Do you still need it? But
Right.
so,
Yeah.
It's
No,
with
I
you.
The
think
note
that,
talks about if I don't let my principal know in this
Sure, right,
accordance, then I have to take leave. And so it's saying the failure to make up time under that will be
Would-
charged to leave under 2
Right.
above. So I think it's A, B, and C,
Yep.
but both sides can look at
Can
it
look
and
at it.
double check that.
that's clerical, we can fix that.
Okay.
We could fix it too in our
Yeah.
counter.
all right.
okay, Article 8.
Article 8. We,
I'll do- Ready.
you're fine.
This is our proposal, so we don't have any. We don't have any for the audience, sorry.
Sorry. So, we've seen continual growth over the past, I don't know how many years, right? We're continually opening new schools almost every year. So we figured let's put some of that language into the contract at this point. I think schools are going to continue to open. And then we also brought back the early voluntary transfer language. So everything that is black is current contract language or the original MOU language. So our number 1 was currently in the contract with voluntary transfer. Okay, number 2 comes from the early voluntary transfer MOU is where that starts, is number 2. So again, everything that's in black from number 2 through the next part was in the original MOU language, and then everything that's in red are things that we are changing. Okay. So you originally had a deadline, and I actually think that I forgot to cross out the original deadline. But we kind of went with a date of the end of quarter 3. I think you guys had kind of these random dates that I believe Kathy Hutchins had chosen. And we felt like teachers are kind of thinking in terms of quarters. So we figured to give them through the end of quarter 3 to decide if they wanted to change schools felt like a reasonable ask. We got rid of 4 where it says instructional employee informs human resources of their intent or interest to transfer because they have to turn the form into HR. So we felt that that was redundant. We just got rid of that language.
Just as a clarification,
Yes.
in number 2, or by selecting number 5, that should come out. That should be struck there.
No.
So by number 5, what?
Number 5 is on the voluntary transfer list. They have 5 schools that they're putting down. So they have 4 schools they're putting
Okay.
down, or they can select 5 where they don't have a preference
Okay.
in order.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
That's a little confusing.
Mhm.
So number 5 is, it's after the comma, any of the above on the submitted form. So on the form, you put down your 4 top schools. Number 1 would be your first choice, number 4 being your last choice, and then 5 is that it's in no particular order.
Got you.
Okay.
That makes more sense. I understand.
So number 5, submitting a transfer request guarantees the employee an interview at each of their preferred schools, provided that there is an opening in their certified subject and or grade. We figure, what can it hurt to give the person an interview, right? And potentially they want to hire that person. So we just got rid of the original language does not mean the employee will automatically receive an interview, a transfer, or specific assignment desired. Again, it cannot hurt to interview, at least give them an interview. 6, we changed that when a transfer offer is made, candidates will be asked to accept or decline the offer in writing, email appropriate within 1 business day. We just decided let's give them an extra day to really decide if they're going to take that offer and change schools. It is a big decision. And then 7, instructional employees will only be allowed to transfer via the early transfer process 1 time during the transfer window, which your original window was February 28th through June 30th. And we are saying that it's March, which is the start of quarter 4, through July 15th. We felt like there was a lot of movement in July this year. So I feel like principals have a better idea of what's happening through July 15th rather than June 30th. So we just kind of extended that 2 weeks. Under vacancies, this is still language from the MOU. All instructional employees are encouraged to complete and submit an early transfer request, even if vacancies of interest are not available or known. This will ensure the instructional employee is considered should a vacancy occur. Again, we got rid of the June 30th date and changed it to July 15th. And it says there are no exceptions to add employees after the application deadline. We just figure, I don't know why we ended up crossing that one out, but
I don't think it's needed.
it's not necessarily needed, yeah. You have a deadline, right? We figured that was kind of redundant language. Again, we just changed dates going through that, we left your language that not all vacancies will be known. And then if we do put this into the contract, then number 4, we crossed out MOU and put article. So that's the only change there. The timelines, really it's just the date. So instead of February 14th through March 5th, we changed it to the first day of quarter 3 through the last day of quarter 3. So you have quarter 3 to decide if you want to change schools. That's when the process will be made available and the forms will be made available to all instructional personnel. The last day of quarter 3 is when the transfer request form with required documents are due at Human Resources. We just cleaned up the language a little bit there. I don't think there's any real change in content. And then it says, it did say instructional employee informs their current principal or administrator of their intent to transfer. We just added that it is recommended. The principal's going to know regardless, but it is up to the employee if they want to have that conversation with their principal. Again, we just changed the date when it is due to Human Resources to the last day of quarter 3. The next timeline was March 22nd through April 16th. So we just said the first day of quarter 4 through July 15th. Principals will conduct interviews for known or anticipated vacancies. the principal will contact instructional employees from the early transfer list for interviews. And we just struck out the language for whom they would like to interview. And just, again, we're just trying to give them at least an interview. It's, we're in a teacher shortage, especially now. So why not move people that want to be moved so that they're happy? It's a good retention measure. I just lost my spot.
April 19th.
Thank you. I struck out April 19th through May 7th. That we just felt like that was a management language that we didn't need in the teacher contract. And then May 10th through June 30th, we struck out the date and just said any new vacancy that occurs, the principal will first interview off the early transfer list. And then we crossed out additional instructional employee interviews may be conducted with instructional employees on the early transfer list because that negated the language that we added in. And then again, changed that date that instructional employees who submitted their name for the transfer remain on that list through July 15th. We changed July 1st through October 8th. It was originally a no transfer period, and we changed it to limited transfer period and added the provision that the instructional employee will be allowed to transfer once the replacement teacher is secured and ready to take over the classroom from which they are leaving. So if they've got a replacement, why not let them move to the new school that they want to be at, okay? And then October 2nd through the first day of quarter 3 would be the normal hiring process where you're posting things in AppleTrack and people can move to their new position. And then we just added in that they can move to their position within a 3-week time frame if they've been hired at a new school. Then involuntary was originally in the contract. I just added to number 2. This talks about that if they're transferred, they shall have the opportunity to meet with the superintendent. The superintendent will let them know within 5 work days of the transfer notification. So last year we added in language to Article 9, Section D that said that they would get 1 to 2 planning days depending on if it was a change in school, a change in location. So I just added in that provision that language applies there. And I did the same with the 3rd paragraph in B. Because so in the 3rd paragraph, it originally said a professional employee will be given as much advance notice of a reassignment as possible in keeping with the needs of the specific school or district. And this is within a school. So again, last year we negotiated into the contract in Article 9, Section D that they would be given 5 days notice. So I'm just matching that contract language there. Okay. And then D is where we
Made it teeny.
yeah, we struck out some original language and we added in your MOU language for the opening of a new school and how that process would be covered. So we left pretty much all of that language, except for 3. We just felt like the language was cumbersome, and so we just simplified it to the affected school principal should recommend that all employees apply for positions at the new school. And then on other processes, A through C, on A, I just struck through Article 8 because this is Article 8, so we wouldn't want to reference that within the article. And B said after all positions have been filled and there are positions that must still be reduced at schools affected by rezoning for the opening of the new school, you originally had in there that the public service contract for professional service contract teachers, which we know as the grandfathered teachers, will be involuntarily transferred. No, not the grandfathered teachers. The
PSC teachers are
okay.
teachers. You're right. You were given currently the benefits to the grandfathered teachers.
Right,
We want to extend it
to everyone. So we're not saying that only the grandfathered teachers will be transferred. We're saying that any teacher could be transferred and assuring their job. And then C, we got rid of all provisionally effective and highly effective annual contract teachers who were non-reappointed for FTE purposes from schools affected by rezoning will be afforded interviews in accordance with the contractual transfer process and within their certification areas through the end of pre-planning of the school's opening. And we left non-reappointed employees hired, and we changed the date from August to September 15th. We'll have a break in service and will be required to be processed as a new employee. I don't remember where we crossed that out, do you?
It's okay,
Okay.
because they're all gonna get interviews anyway.
Yeah, I think we crossed that out because they're all gonna get interviewed anyways.
If it's
You call-
non-reappointed for budgetary purposes, the intent, I think, from the language was that all teachers would get interviews regardless.
Right.
So what was the intent of the prior language?
Involuntary transfer.
What was the intent of C that you struck out?
I don't know.
I
Okay.
think because in B, then all teachers would be involuntary.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, yes,
Yeah,
because,
for this.
yes, thank you,
So there
Jen.
would not be any-
So C is talking about our annual contract teachers. And so because in B, we struck out our PSC teachers and just said all teachers, then C became null and void.
Does that make sense?
Okay. Thank you,
And then-
Jen.
And then the extension of the September is that August, I mean,
August
we have
15th is sometimes the first day of school.
it's
We've got some
extend the
shuffling
break in
happening.
service
Yeah.
a little bit and give some of these employees an opportunity. They don't have to go through the whole process all over again, which is costly and time consuming
Yeah.
and all the.
And we all know it takes a while to get them processed through HR.
Because there's a lot.
There are, yeah, it's a lot of paperwork and all that good stuff. So, did you guys have any questions?
I don't think there's anything statutorily, but I could be wrong.
All that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could be wrong, but just August
For
15th seems,
transfers?
well, no, for the
Start
break in
dates?
service.
Oh, okay.
Right.
I think it was just an arbitrary date that was thrown out years. It's been quite a few years now, but
So on vacancies,
Mhm.
the date you pushed out to July 15th
Mhm.
in a couple of places there. Talk me through that.
So we just felt like there was still a lot of hiring happening in July. And so we feel like we should give our current teachers who are trying to move to other schools the chance to go where they want to go instead of having them see this posting when like they put this on a list of them wanting to transfer. And then let's say somebody quits after July 30th. I feel like there was
June 30th.
June 30th. I felt like there seemed to be a lot of movement happening still in July from what I could tell on my end. Obviously you guys have the ins and outs, but and so we just felt like let's extend that a little bit more to like these people are putting these schools on a list because they want to be at those schools. So why would we not want them to go to the schools that they want to go to, especially since they're already in the district? So let's give them as much opportunity as possible to get to those schools and be happy and retain them as a teacher than have them maybe be stuck at a school when like maybe somebody quit, and then they don't get to go to the school that they wanted to because then they ended up hiring outside.
So I think initially, because we're out before Memorial Day,
Mhm.
right? So it does give it a good window, but I think part of the discussion was trying to get all those people processed and in
Mhm.
place before school,
Mhm.
right? That was the June 30th
Right. And-
piece.
and
it
we
doesn't
felt-
leave you a whole lot of time.
Okay. On
Pre-planning.
our end, we felt like we were giving you guys 3-4 weeks before school starts. I mean, obviously they may not be in before pre-planning, but that gives you time before like the first day of students being at school. So that was our ask there.
Yeah.
And you understand why we've had this opening of new schools for way too many years as an MOU. It's time to put it into the contract because we know you're going to continue to grow.
Right.
As the numbers are.
Questions? Any questions? Okay.
Let's set a start initial time?
Just 30 minutes and after-
Yeah.
Jesse, I'm
Start
turning
with 30
the mic off.
minutes? Okay.
Okay, so 7:45. Huh?
Did
You
you
have
send
a
mine? I
minute?
sent it to
You want to do 45?
I texted it to you.
I did, thank you.
Hmm?
And
We
I-
always end up
We just have the one person.
Thank you for saying.
So yeah, I think we both decided we needed more time. We do appreciate you talking through the working conditions with us. And then we will need to kind of take a closer look at that. And we will obviously be taking a deep dive into compensation proposal and what we want to do with that. We should have an answer by the 20th, which is our next meeting
The
date.
next one, right?
Yes. And we're still good with 5 p.m. Yes. Okay.
You double check that, Phyllis?
Check that right.
Make sure that everybody is.
And we're the 18th, Brendan?
18th at 6.
Okay, thank you.
And we'll have Article 8.
What's that?
We'll have Article 8 back to you by then.
Yes. All right.
Thank
Just
you.
figured we
Motion
should
to
have a
adjourn.
closing thoughts. Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My closing thoughts are thank you all for being here.
Yes.
Glad you made it through the hurricane.
Yes.
Schools are good.